I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We get an adoption of the agenda. I appreciate it. I move to adopt the agenda for March. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so our first item on the business, the recognition. Anybody on the board want to start anything else for recognition?
I want to start off with just the email that Casey forwarded to us about how well JAG did in their competition. It's nice to follow a group of kids that came to talk to us, told us what they were going to do, and darn if they didn't do it. So I was glad that Rachel included the pictures in the emails, and was just, you could just hear the excitement in her voice as she wrote the email, that the kids just did fantastic. And I was impressed that some of those events are not pre-planned. Like, they walk into the room, they're given the problem, and they have 30 minutes to work out a solution, and those kids will score. I don't know if I think of it as third place, but we got first places. So that is amazing, because I know what they're up against from other high schools of all different sizes. So kudos to those kiddos.
Great. Susan? Yeah, I got mine too. I was very appreciative of that. Jag email too. That was very inspiring. So, we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks, I'm sure. Dr. Reminder?
I would congratulate our district spelling champions by Korea for Henry and Dr. We're in the same basement in their office. Great stuff going on. And I too am going to recognize our JAG students. The one that impresses me always is they have a tire changing competition. And our kids do great on that. They come in first place. Up in suits and they do all that other stuff, but they can still change a tire. And 3 of those students will qualify for nationals, so you'll be seeing a request for approval for them to travel in an upcoming agenda. Our spring sports are underway at all our campuses, and our students and our student athletes are already posting some wins. Our track teams are some to watch. We have some really, really good runners on this year's track team, but baseball and softball are having a good time. And I want to do a shout out to our employees. We've been trying to work on attendance for our students and our staff, and it's hard, you know, life happens and whatever. But for the last quarter, for quarter 3, we had 42 employees with perfect attendance, and we have 7 employees who have perfect attendance for the year so far. And again, 4 of those 7 are at Vulture. So, and just about every other employee that reports to Vulture Peak had perfect attendance for 3rd quarter. So it's lots of good things going on there. So it is a big deal to have perfect attendance for an entire year, and even for a quarter. So Todd was one of our only leaders that had perfect attendance for the 3rd quarter. So we know that, you know, life happens, and anyway. So congratulations to all of them, and thank you for your commitment to our students in that way. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you. Takes us into our principal reports, and we start out with Festival Foothills Elementary and our principal, Mr. Matthew Clark. Good evening.
Good evening. How's it going, everybody?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Ron, would you like to start?
Okay. Well, one of the things, oh, for some reason or other, my thing didn't open at all, but one of the items that I wanted to mention was meeting your over 90% attendance goal for, I guess, for the year, wasn't it, at this point? So, yeah, which that's very good, being able to get kids to come to school nowadays. But yeah, and no, otherwise, there's, you know, I like the report, and there wasn't anything else that I really had for you there. I do have something else. When Carissa gets up, I will combine the two of you together for another
Oh, okay.
question.
All righty. Very good.
Now I'm on the edge of my seat. Way to go.
I want you to you should be.
Cut it with a knife.
That's right. Sandy, you have?
Well, I was going to say the same thing. I was impressed with the attendance. Because you can't learn if you're not here.
Yes.
And I'm always happy when our enrollment is a plus and not a minus, so that was a good thing. Oh, and there was a nice increase in the number of kids using the IXL, and so I was happy to see that. It seems like it's a tool that they like and will use, and are you seeing improvement when they use that tool?
You know, when you talk to the staff, I mean, they do. I don't think they'll tell you it's the only thing that's leading to the improvement, but I think they'll tell you it's definitely one thing. I think the thing that I've noticed around here with the IXL is when and where the teachers seem to be using it. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's like, okay, it is a lesson priority, because I think in their planning, you know, they're more built around standards and unwrapping their documents and going that direction. But I think quite a few of the teachers around here, they have in their head, it's like, okay, hey, we may have a little gap of time. Let's have IXL ready to go, so the kids just aren't idly doing nothing. And yeah, it is. I mean, it is definitely as popular. I mean, it's getting used, so which is good. And I'm hoping that'll translate ultimately here in the next few weeks. We'll see it impacts their performance even further.
I'd like to see more kids use it at home on their own. You know, that little thing is pretty tiny, but anything that helps them, you know, gives them that repetition, or, you know, gives them a practice. They know whether they're right or wrong right away. It's not having to wait for a test to come back, so that's, you know, that's a plus. But that was about it. You know, I always enjoy the activities. Always enjoyed the activities. That's really about all I have to say, you know, other than the first and fifth graders need to start behaving better.
The statistics can be a little misleading there. I'll leave it at that. It doesn't take,
Okay.
sometimes it doesn't take much to skew a chart, but
Yeah, I know. But, yeah, I'll leave something for somebody else.
All right. Well, Karen's turn.
Well, I'll tell you what, my heart went pitter-patter with scatter plots. I love scatter plots. So that was awesome. Thank you. But I did have a couple things I wanted to mention. Wow, on the Galileo, your first and third grade are just rocking it. So I was excited to see that, and you made mention of it in your updates as well, especially those first graders, just getting them, you know, out of the chute the way they are. I guess my concerns on the performance side is on 6, 7, and 8. But then I got to the referrals, and your 6, 7, and 8 were like, whoosh, and that was amazing to see, because middle school is oftentimes the higher numbers. And so you did mention in your update that you had noticed back in November, December, high referrals there, and that you and your staff put some things in place. I just wondered, what have you found as maybe was there a biggest thing maybe that you did as with the junior high, with the middle school staff that brought those referrals down in the last quarter?
I think, well, I'll start with them. I mean, because I think one thing that maybe doesn't get noticed the way it should is that we have some people back there that can build some relationships with kids. And I think ultimately that is something they've chosen to stick with. And I think the kids have kind of met them in a little regard. I mean, are there times that they probably could have wrote some referrals on some of those kids? Yes. But I think they just chose to stick with it a little longer of, you know, do we really need to go there? I mean, can't we find a way to work out these behaviors? And so I think that's definitely part of it. I think some of it is purposeful, and I'll just use and go back to an example that I had from last year that I had to use, well, for a week, thankfully. But the bathrooms out in that building, there was some vandalism that started up again. And so I closed them down for a week. And, you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to open it back up, but it's like, I'm not going to keep doing this. It's like, you got to have people start to report things. And I have received a couple of reports. And, I mean, so we're only a few days in, but you know, like I say, just, you know, what do you really want out of this and that sort of thing. And I think a little bit of growing up, quite frankly, in particular with 1 grade level. Some of the issues that we saw with them last year, and now that they're a year older, while there's still some issues, they're not referral issues anymore. So I don't know, those are things that just jump off the top of my head. Some purposeful work as well. Some students, I guess the last thing I would add before I let you move on is when I look at our student study team and some of the kids that are getting referred for that, you know, are now the fact that they're getting a little more pointed help and maybe they're a little more on that radar, is that kind of deterring behaviors. Sometimes when you don't know how to do something or you're just unsure about it, there's behaviors that can come out to try and cover up that problem. And I think a little bit of that has also played a factor.
Very good. I love that you started with relationships. That's a key, and but I love what you said. Thank you. The other thing, and it may be, I'm not sure, the same thing Ron's thinking of, but so it can be now or with Carissa or whatever. But this, I don't know what you call them, the charts that go like this.
The rainbow chart?
Yeah, the rainbow charts. I'm just not familiar with those. I know they come out of the software. So the two bands, I'm just not sure how to necessarily read those. So I was appreciative of in your update you made reference, but and maybe now's not the place. But I just when you put the information then interpret it into your update, it helps me because those charts to me I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be looking at.
Okay. Well, I'll go to that page real quick and I'll touch on this a little bit, and anybody here behind me, if you would like to jump in, because we all are kind of off, please feel free to do so. So let's just go to first grade for an example, because that was a really good Acadians benchmark test for them. So what we want to see is we want to see as much blue and green as possible, because that's where you're getting into proficient and highly proficient. When you get into reds and yellows, you're getting into minimal and partially proficient. And so if you look there, for lack of a better word, since we're on speedometers, why don't we call that the windshield wiper blade? What the heck? Anyways, so if you look at a first grade, we'll look at the blue and green. Actually, the data that I put in here was a little bit off, so I'm going to kind of help update it a little bit. 58% of those kids in first grade, as of this benchmark, were proficient or highly proficient. And then, as you can see, then the red would make up the remaining 42%. And so ultimately, that's kind of what that is meant to be an indicator for.
Proficiency then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I say, blues and greens, that's what you're shooting for. Reds and yellows, that's what you're trying to help kids work away from.
Thank you. I think that was it. Even just your PBIS has to be having an effect on those referrals too, so thank you.
Yeah, no, I've been really pleased with the staff. I would say that's been, just as a building, one of our biggest growth points. But it also has had a big impact on the kids. You know, you guys talked about attendance earlier. Well, sometimes you're here and you're still not in class, if that makes sense. So when you're here and you're in class, you know, ding, a winner.
A winner. Thank you.
Susan, do you have anything for Mr. Clark?
No, I think it was all covered pretty well. Thank you.
Okay.
You bet. And it was covered very well, but I just wanted to touch on I love the increases in the proficiency piece, and I like that you took the time to spell it out and show it to those of us that don't follow the windshield wiper as well. But no, great report. I appreciate it. And if I remember correctly, you don't have any more of these that you have to do you?
I think this is it, yeah.
Go out with the bang.
Oh, well.
All right.
But
Yes.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you
The
so much.
windshield
for everything.
wiper. It's helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. That means you showed up and you were in class, too.
Yeah, but yeah, evidently.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we've got, her. We've got Hacienda Elementary and Mrs. Carissa Hirschkowitz.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing so far?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, up against the firing squad here. And who would like to
I feel
start
safe.
for Mrs. Hirschkowitz?
Well, since I have a question. for
Oh,
both
there you
of
go.
them,
That's
I'll
right.
just
You
Go
got
ahead.
For both of them.
How's that?
Okay.
Okay. Mine had to do with PBIS
Oh.
and the location of referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Where the festival's highest location is the cafeteria, and yours is the lowest. I would just wonder, is there some difference in configuration and, what?
It's in the water, Ron.
No, I was just curious. I mean, it just,
That's a good question. I hadn't noticed.
I think with us, especially when you look at our data, fifth grade has been a great level of focus in particular.
Yeah.
It's a place where there's just a lot of high interaction, and in their case, there's fifth and sixth graders together, and then you might have a little bit of crossover with. Just kidding. In our case with the cafeteria, there's a high level of interaction with not only just the fifth grade, but then other grades as well, and the crossover. Then you start getting into crossovers with recesses. It's kind of that time of the day. And so our changes are like, okay, we're going to have the interaction. How are we going to deal with the interaction?
Okay. Now, it was just on the charts, when you looked at it, it was like, oh. It's interesting.
I think that's a great conversation point. Like I hadn't noticed that. I know for us, we've done things over the years like making our third, fourth, and fifth grade. They have recess before lunch, so they come in with a different, like they've spent their energy, and then we bring them in, and we also we seat them in a very specific way, so it's not a free for all. So
Okay. All right.
just different
All right.
ways of managing.
All right.
Good thing for a new conversation. Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thanks for asking it.
But I noticed, kudos for your attendance, over 90% as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really-
I was
really
pleasantly
great.
surprised.
And I know that that's just not automatic. There's
Yeah.
both of you. There's a lot of follow up, and
Yeah.
how come you're not, your kid's not in school? What's
Yeah.
going on? So yeah, appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Because they're not going to learn if they're not here.
100%.
Let's see if I had anything else. No, I think I had everything else was answered. But one thing, and I don't know, and I talked to Dr. Rimadini about, but from the district, the performance, she passed that on. But PBIS, one of the goals is that keeps kids in the classroom so that they have more instructional time. And my question is, since PBIS, has there been an increase in performance of the students, because they're supposed to, like I said, more instructional time. So that was just, a curiosity question that I asked, and that would be a district answer, not for you, but just.
But a good thing to look at, right? Is it having that correlation that we're hoping that it has, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good questions.
Please, my turn?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. First of all, I love what you just said. It's a conversation to have, because I think that is a key between the two elementary schools, because in as much as he said that about the cafeteria, you guys had lower classroom referrals and you had higher. So there's the other half of the conversation,
Right.
What
Right.
are we doing? What are you doing? What have you done in the last 3 years? What are you doing? What have you done in the last 3 years? So I love
Right.
that idea. I do have a question for you on your on your after-school tutoring.
Oh,
So for math, you had 46 students for the most part, and for ELA, 63 students. So I wanted to ask you what does that look like? The end of the school, the bell rings.
Mm-hmm.
Now what happens? What does that tutoring time look like from the time the bell rings and a lot of kids go home, but 46 math, 63 ELA, what does that look like?
So they're occurring at different times. So it's not 46 kids in at one time. Each
Okay.
grade level is taking a piece of that time. And the first thing, the most important, is a snack
Yes.
before going in. So by about 3:25, they're back in classrooms and they're in groups, no more than, I don't know if we have any groups bigger than 10, but a lot of groups of 6. And skill-based, looking at what is it that those students need in this little bit of time, and different opportunities for hands-on practice, and really getting at specifically what do those students need over that hour. So third grade might do ELA, do a reading on Monday and the math on Thursday. They're mostly split up like that.
Okay, and are the classroom teachers the tutors?
Mostly, yes.
And do they return to their own teacher, or?
No, like
Groups.
we have 2 third grade teachers, so one third grade teacher might do the ELA and the other third grade teacher might do the math, or one might do both.
And is part of your after-school tutoring also IXL, part of it?
Maybe a little bit of it,
Not,
yeah.
it's not the majority
It's
of
not the
your
majority.
IXL members.
It's getting more of that personal time with the
Great.
human.
Human.
It's not to say it's
Good
not
idea.
being
Yeah.
used, but it's not the focus of it.
Because your IXL numbers are very high,
Yes.
and I didn't know
Yeah.
if that's what's going on in your tutoring or not, so I'd love to hear
It's a
that
little bit of it, yeah.
personalization.
Yeah.
And I shared with Dr. Remendini this week that when my mother-in-law was in rehab, whenever she could walk down the hallway, she rang the bell.
Oh.
And so when you have that in your report, that ringing
Yeah.
of the bell for those kiddos, that is
Yeah.
just so small.
Yeah.
It's very precious.
I love the bell. It's fun when, especially if it's the upstairs kids, it's right at the bottom of our stairway. And we do a big screaming down the hall.
hear
You know,
it.
we're always about being quiet in the hallways unless we're going to be ringing the bell. And then
Cool.
we get to scream and celebrate, and everybody claps, and somebody's usually seemingly embarrassed, but, quietly
way.
excited, right? Yeah, it's very good. Thank you for noticing that.
Well, you've already talked about what I was going to talk about, was the tutoring. And, again, I'm always happy when I see an increase in students instead of a decrease, so
Yeah.
that's always a positive.
We've had some turnover.
And again, I had written down 5th grade referrals really, really high. Something in the 5th graders, I don't know what it is. But
The time of year.
yeah, it's a transition year,
Yeah.
because now they're the big folks on campus.
Right.
Next year, they'll be all back down at the bottom. I was pleased with, progress with the grades and everything. And yeah, that's about all I had to say.
Well, easy night. Susan, do you have anything for Mrs. Hershkowitz?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I liked seeing the percentage improvements in the benchmarks across the board. I think that's a good thing to note. And then always, your updates of the different classrooms and the groups and, chorus. And then we loved seeing the coyotes howling in the parade. So that was really fun. But yeah, good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. You just had it nailed.
All right.
So I really do, I like the classroom and the grade level updates and photographs and things like that. And they all talked about the enrollment. I really like to see that number going up instead of down.
Yes.
And even especially this time of year. And yeah, just your windshield wiper pictures could use a little adjusting, but I know we're all working on it every day.
Working toward it every day.
But but great report. I really appreciate it, Carissa.
Good.
Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Last and never least is our Vulture Peak Middle School principal, Mrs. Anne Marie Davy.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm great, thank you.
And I think this is your last report too. This is just a night of sadness. Anyway, who would like to start off with Mrs.
Sandy,
Davy?
you want us? No.
Oh, okay.
I have two things.
Oh, great. Let's
Just
start
real
there.
quick.
Yeah.
Just in this, kind of the same question I asked her, what does your morning tutoring look like?
So we have, excuse me, 1 day a week where we do ELA tutoring and 1 day a week where we do math tutoring. And this year, the one advantage we have with the buses getting there so early is that we have more kids on campus, so the parents don't have to get them there early. They're already there early. So what we do is as soon as they get off the bus, if they're going to go to tutoring, and they're assigned, basically. So it's not just a, hey, wander in, I have nothing else to do. They're assigned, and the teacher will usually call the parent, tell them, hey, we want them in tutoring specifically, and they are working on specific standards. So it's not just a come in and get help with homework. It's specifically for a standard that they're working on based on whatever area they need the most help on. And there can be as few as 3 kids in there, as many as 10. We try and keep it no more than that because that a big group of kids trying to do specific targeted intervention doesn't work. So it's usually a pretty small group.
And the other question I had concerned your NJHS applications. You gave out 16, so
Mhm.
eligible
Correct.
16, but only 5 were returned. So I wondered what support you have in place to help those kids get them in, or what the reason is 5 out of 16.
So that's a good question. So the main reason what we found, because we kind of broke it down like why, because we announce it, we talk to them specifically, that, and what we found for most of the kids is they're pretty overwhelmed. Most of those kids, as you know, who apply for NJHS also are in sports and students who care and student council. And so I think for them it was just one more thing. And one of the things that Miss Klopek talked to them about is, okay, if you decide not to do it in junior high, middle school, you really want to make sure when you get to high school that you really dig into that. And so they understand the importance of it. And some of them too, I don't know that at the middle school level, because we bring them in front of everybody at the, at the last assembly, we brought them up and I think some kids, they don't want that get in front of everybody kind of a thing. And so, yeah, usually we have about 8 to 11 that apply, and this year we just had fewer. So I don't think it was from lack of, we don't know what's going on. It was more of we're a little overwhelmed, and that's just one more thing we don't want on our plate.
What was it? I didn't understand. What was it that you were?
We had 16 kids who were eligible for NJHS to apply, and only 5 completed the application, were accepted. So it was a small percentage, but like I said, I think a lot of the kids are they're kind of overwhelmed with all the stuff that they have going on.
And I don't know if we got to an answer the other day, but does Festival have an NJHS?
We were working on trying to get a chapter.
So we're looking at starting.
She was the one that helped me
Oh, good.
make the inroads. So
Okay, so maybe we'll continue on that.
Yeah, and it is a service-oriented organization, so it's like, it's not just you're in NJHS, you have to do things. So I think it was just more of that. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have more kids next year. And for sure when they get to high school, we really encourage them, get in NHS.
Great. Thank you.
On your attendance,
Mhm.
or number of students, I should say enrollment, not attendance, you don't have a plus or a minus.
We are, well, that's changed this week. We actually have 3 new ones. So I enrolled 3 kids this week.
Okay.
So we're at 140. So yeah, but we don't have a negative.
Yeah, so it was like, I didn't know if we went up, down, we stayed the same, because I
Well,
can't
we've gone
remember
up
from one
just
3-month
since-
period to the other. Yeah, so that was, I wanted to know if we were going up, down, or staying the same. I think Karen pretty much covered a lot of the stuff I was gonna say, so I really don't have a lot of questions. Always enjoy seeing what the kids are doing and the activities. I always love the art.
I know, they do a great job.
They do a really great job. Really, really great job. So I'm gonna let somebody else talk.
We'll have a lot of that showcased at our open house this coming week. So we'll have a lot of the art projects and the theater projects out for parents to see.
Cool.
I don't think you've been here since we did the school tour that day over there after the, whatever it was we did. The finance stuff over to high school. But I really enjoyed that, that tour to the school there and seeing the kids in the class doing their work. I have a question about the scatter diagram, and it goes to all 3 of you. The labeling on it, like where it says expected growth maintained, you know, that up there at the top. And then over here you have average growth number, and then down here you have expected growth number. Is there any correlation between?
We're going to let we decided, we got together and we thought, we're going to let Debbie just explain
Okay.
that because it's a very complicated.
I just wonder if there's any correlation between what's expected
Yeah,
and what,
we're gonna-
you know, what the growth is because, in that other title.
Well, hello, board members. So with our Galileo, and this is our favorite report, this student growth and
Yeah.
proficiency report. We love it because it gives us both measures, right? And so the quadrants, you can see, you know, you have the growth and you have the proficiency going up and down. So the statisticians, not Debbie Hodgkiss in my little mind, the statisticians in Galileo have a national expected growth number.
Okay.
And that is calculated by your 2 points of data. So if this particular one, I believe, is going from benchmark 1 to 3. We can also look at growth between benchmark 1 and 2, 2 and 3, you know, depending on what we want to look at. So with this particular chart that you're looking at, the expected growth, I'm looking at the 6th grade math. The expected growth at the very bottom was 47.
Right.
Then they take the developmental level, that's our score, the student's score, and they average that for that grade level. And whatever that average is, they're comparing that to that expected growth. Now that expected growth, even though the number is 47, it's a range. So we have 3 areas. You can meet expected growth, you can exceed it, or you cannot meet it.
Right.
Right? So with this particular chart I'm looking at, the average growth was 46.
Right.
The expected growth was 47. So this particular group of students met expected growth.
Right.
Does
Got it.
that help?
Okay, let's just go all the way down to 8th grade ELA. That was the one that caught my attention.
Okay, hang on.
It's an interesting
I'm a little
set.
lost. Where's your 8th grade ELA?
Just
And so I don't know how big a range this thing is,
Oh, there it is. Okay,
because that one is average is -7, but the expected is 12.
Yes.
So and it shows as expected growth maintained.
yes. So what I don't know and what I can't answer is what is that range? If they say the target is 12, it's not going to be only that 12. It's going to be like a standard deviation between if 12 is the expected growth, they're what is that, like 19 points lower
Yeah,
than the expected.
right.
So they might just be squeaking by. I don't know what that number
Okay.
is, unfortunately. But
Okay.
yeah, you can be in the negative. Now, the negative feels uncomfortable, but just let me give you a quick scenario with a negative. And we see it in our students when we go through the reports, and it is what it is. We can have a student that can drop like 150 points, developmental levels, and you're like, what on earth? Sometimes they put in effort, and other days they don't. And so if we have a student that put effort in that first benchmark, but then decided second one, click, 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 I don't feel like it, that can bring the whole average of that group down. So that would be my explanation for why we see those negative numbers. Because again, when we can see the dots, you can't see the names on the dots.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We can hover over that and we can see, John Doe got, 143 is one we looked at today, and I was like, oh, well, that student probably didn't make an effort because that's like almost a year's growth
Right.
that they dropped.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I wish I could give you more numbers, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, and I suspected it was all coming out of the system and
It is.
nobody really was doing any crunching themselves.
Yeah, and even when I pulled off the help report from the system, and I got 2 sentences on what it was, and I'm like, okay, they're not going to give me any more technical data. Not that I could understand it,
Right.
Because
Okay.
it's pretty statistical.
All right, well, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. That was my main thing for,
And when we look at it, I mean, obviously, we're looking at the overall, but we, like what Debbie said, we can hover over each one, and we can get into each individual student.
Uh-huh.
And we can even, like one kid, I went, why in the world? And they're like, well, he really wanted to go to tutoring, so he purposely,
Oh.
things like that. So you just, you don't know, and maybe they didn't feel good that day, or.
you
just
ask
don't
them?
know. Oh, absolutely, yeah, because we get, and the kids score them as well. Like we have them write down their scores. They have to track them. They know what their scores are. They know the areas they didn't do well in. It's very deep. So
Okay.
it's really good data. You're just seeing a little tiny snapshot. We dig in a lot more.
Okay, now that was the only question I had on your report.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm
otherwise,
glad Debbie could
Good.
answer that.
hey,
Tag team. Susan, do you have anything for Mrs. Davy?
I forgot. I'm just kidding. No, I love all the updates. I love all the extracurricular things you're doing. I think that you've made a big difference in Vulture Peak in the last few years, and we're thankful for that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
The only comment, because the other things were covered, and it is a great report, by the way. I really like these scatter reports. I'll never forget years ago when Mrs. Hodges showed up at one of our board meetings, and superintendent at the time, he had put it up on the board, and we're looking at this thing like, what in the world is this, And Mrs. Hodges had to explain all over again and start us out. So I like to see this back. This is a great report.
It is.
And being that we can't see the names means that's good. That's great because we get to see where the little dots are moving to. We're hoping they're going this way instead of this way. But anyway, great report. Appreciate it. And yeah,
If you noted, Carissa had an upward arrow on hers.
she did.
She was hoping.
She did. Yep.
she did more. There was no doubt.
That's right.
We're moving up.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
I
it.
noticed that, Carissa.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work up
All
there.
right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Go
you.
Eagles, right?
Go Eagles.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
That's right.
Oh, that's green Eagles.
You're in the
Yeah.
wrong. You're in the wrong business there.
She tried.
Hey, my boy is retired.
All right, so the next item of business is our call to the public, and we actually have a requester, and that would be Ann Williams. And we're going to see how she can summarize her piece this into 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the board. I am Ann Williams, and I'm the parent of a child here at Festival Foothills Elementary who is in the pre-K program. First off, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to address an issue that impacts not just a few, but a significant portion of our students. The need for a board-certified behavior analyst, a BCBA, to be allowed in the schools during instructional hours. According to the CDC, 1 in 36 children in the U.S. is diagnosed with autism. That means that nearly in every classroom, at least one student requires specialized support to thrive. The research is clear. Early intervention is critical. Studies show that students who receive applied behavior analyst ABA therapy provided by BCBAs see up to 90% improvement on targeted behaviors, including communication and social interaction. This is not just a statistic. This is a lifeline and a life-changing intervention that allows students to reach their full potential. Currently, BCBAs are privately funded by families, but without access to the schools, their impact is limited. By keeping these professionals out, we are unintentionally creating barriers for students who need structured support within their learning environment. Our teachers are hardworking and dedicated, but many are not equipped with the specialized training to address the unique challenges of students with autism. Research from the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders found that classrooms with BCBA support not only improve student outcomes, but increase teacher confidence and decrease behavioral disruptions, creating a more effective and learning environment for all. From a fiscal standpoint, this proposal makes sense. Early intervention significantly reduces the need for special education services later, saving schools up to $390,000 per student over time. Additionally, allowing BCBAs in the school comes at minimal cost to the district, as most families are willing to provide or to privately fund these services. This is an opportunity to enhance student success without straining school resources. We all share the same goal: to give every child the tools they need to succeed. By allowing BCBAs to provide services during school hours, we can help students, support teachers, and make a cost-effective investment in our district and future. Provided, I gave some highlights of my speech here. Also, I provided a policy proposal for you, and I also would like to note that April is Autism Awareness Month, so I did provide a bracelet, because if anything, we can bring awareness. That's all that we can do sometimes. But thank you for your time, your dedication, and your commitment to creating a stronger educational system for our students.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your brief.
All right. We don't have anybody else? No. All right, consent agenda. Do we need anything pulled from consent agenda before taking action on that? Hearing none, we can entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items for March 18th, 2025 as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'd like to just take a minute to recognize two of our guests in the audience. We had just now had officially put them in their positions. Appreciate you applying for them. So we've got our HR coordinator that will be taking over for Valerie Shumway. Heather Klink is in the audience here, and she's currently our instructional coach at Hacienda, and she'll be taking over. Welcome, and thank you for stepping in. And then we also have our new Vulture Peak Middle School principal in attendance here tonight, and that's Mr. Scott Backus. And appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Did you bring pens or cigars or anything? Or you weren't prepared. Okay, that's all right.
I was saving that for the parade. I thought we were in a parade.
Well, we thank you for everything, and thank you for what you're already doing for the district and what you will be doing for the district. Dr. Amandini, was there any follow-up to that? Is that?
I don't think so. Just
Okay.
thank you to both for attending, and thank you for recognizing them kind of out of order. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, now we move into section 5, which is our action items. And the first action item is the approval of financial reports. And they're presented by our Executive Director of Business Services, Mr. James Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Mendini. You have your February business office report in front of you. As you can see, our M&O expenses are pretty much aligned to what was occurring last year. And then our capital expenses are actually about 20% less than last year, a little bit more than 20%. So we're on track with our spending compared to prior years. We did have 2 unique POs over $10,000. One was for a little over $15,000 to EduPoint. That is our service provider for our student information system, so our annual fee for that service. And then a little over $98,000 to Peoria Ford for 2 work trucks. That was a prior purchase. The board approved to purchase some new work trucks, so that's 2/3 of the delivery. We're waiting for the other third of the delivery. And I will tell you that Mr. Earls is beyond happy with this new truck. And
They
then,
drive this one instead of tow this one.
right. And then the only compliance thing we had in February, we'll make up for this in March. I promise you that list is going to be much longer. But we had our annual tax credit report was submitted to the Arizona Department of Revenue and accepted by them. So balances are positive. There were no surprises, and we are in compliance. Any questions?
That's all good news. Anybody have anything for Mr.?
I just have one, that the annual fee of the information system,
Mhm.
is that a fee, or is it does it always change per year based on the number of students?
So it's both. So there's a portion that's a base fee,
Base,
and
okay.
then per student. Yes.
Anybody else have questions or comments? And we can go with the motion, please. Anybody?
Anybody? Okay. I move to accept the financial reports for
February.
February 2025.
I second.
Okay, I didn't know if you'd gotten it out yet or not. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Thank you. Item B in our action items is at our February meeting, we had our financial audit presentation. And tonight we have to do the actual motion to accept that report that we had. And we need to do it by roll call. So as I read off your name, you can just give your A or nay.
Doing a motion first? Oh,
Yes.
oh.
I thought I just made it. I'm sorry.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't mean to. No.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I thought you just getting ready to call names is the only reason I said that.
No.
I apologize for interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I make a motion to accept the Wickenburg Unified School District Financial Audit FY 23-24.
Now we need a second.
Oh, second.
Okay.
Second.
Well, thank you, Susan.
You were the third.
All right.
And then we saw.
Karen Steen.
There's a delay.
It is a delay.
Yes, accept.
Sandy Gill.
Yes.
Ron Alexander.
Yes.
Susan Webster.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my name's Joe Malio
Okay.
for the tapes. Anyway, so that motion carries. Thank you. And the action item C, the last item on there, is hopeful approval of our mission statement that the leadership has put forward. And I'm sure everybody had a chance to review that. Mine's not loading back, but I know I liked it. What's that?
Mine's not coming up.
Mine isn't either.
Oh, here it is.
Talk a bit about a delay, huh? I'm still waiting. But
When I was reading this, I was trying to remember, because I know we picked it apart and
in our retreat.
Yes. And I was going, is this all we ended up with?
Mm-hmm.
I went to the principal's office.
No, I think it's different from what we did, right?
It just seems like it's a little bit off, and I didn't have
It
time
was
to go
a
back
couple
and look
words.
into my retreat information to double check it.
I think it's a process that it went through after us.
It did,
It went
yeah.
with a recommendation from us. I think Dr.
Yes.
Medini can
So
clear
if-
that up.
If you don't mind, Mr. Malio,
Yes.
the governing board met in their retreat in January, and we worked with a consultant to kind of fine tune and come up with a draft mission statement to update something that we could live with. And then after that, it went to both levels of leadership at the district level, the cabinet, as well as the school leaders. And we had a lot of discussion about several things. The major word was the board had the word ensure success, and we had a lot of discussion and digging apart what that word is, and came to that we commit to the success of our students. And so that was really just the difference that was in there. And so this is kind of the first step, and then we will, if this mission statement is approved tonight, then we'll continue to move forward with updating the rest of our strategic portfolio, which includes the standards around school improvement.
Okay. I knew there was something just tad different.
Yeah, because remember we're doing ensure, and
Yeah.
all of those.
Right.
Yeah. But
I'm okay with it only because it's much shorter and it says what we're really committed to.
right. Karen, are we good?
Absolutely.
Ron, are we good? Susan, did you have a chance to read that over, and you good with that?
Yes, I think it's good.
Okay, so let's get the motion to approve that item.
I move to accept the approval of the updated Wickenburg Unified School District's mission statement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, informational items. We've got items for future agendas. Anybody have anything to?
Well, actually, I thought of something, but I forgot it.
Okay. Well, until she remembers that, anybody have anything?
We'll wait until next time. Yeah, something
Okay.
in my mind.
And then our announcements and calendars. We've got all of those so eloquently displayed by our board secretary, Casey. I appreciate it.
Can we kind of announce everybody about our spring musical?
Not on agenda.
It's in the calendar.
What's in the calendar?
So we can talk about the calendar, right?
Yeah, you can talk about the calendar.
Yeah, it says April. We're going Thursday the 17th, so that's the second night, it looks like,
Right,
Yes.
their dinner.
Yeah.
but the high school is putting on Mamma Mia on Thursday, April 17th, and they do a fantastic job. And I'm really asking people to come and support them because they work really, really hard, and there aren't enough people in the audience, and it always hurts my heart. So I hope that all of you will come and support our kids.
The 16th as well.
Yes, it is. It is Wednesday and Thursday. Does it?
Yes, Wednesday the 16th and Thursday the 17th, and I have a wonderful star in the musical. Come see her.
Okay. Does it start 6:30 both nights? Okay, so it's early.
Yes.
Normally it's 7, but it's starting at 6:30. But please come support the kids.
How do we get tickets?
You can get tickets by calling the Dell Web Center
Okay.
or at the door or at the school.
Sandy, is your commercial over now?
Yes. but
Okay.
I don't even have anybody in it. I just go and
Your
support
heart
the
is
kids.
in it,
But my
Sandy,
heart is
your
in
heart
it,
is
and
in
I
it.
want more people to
Yeah.
come and support the kids. Whether your kid's in it or not, you
Yes.
need to support them.
They're all our
Right.
kids.
Right on. Okay,
Amen.
amen. So we're ready for item 7, closure of the meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
This meeting is adjourned at 6:55. Thank you, everybody.